has the ability within themselves to heal, and they have the strength and the tools that they need to do it. So, if you get cut, your body heals itself. If you get, broken bone, your body heals itself. EMDR really is tapping into your body's ability to heal itself. It's using your neural pathways, it's using your brain, it's using your, eyeballs and bilateral stimulation in your brain to kind of heal yourself. So it kind of does really marry well with, core beliefs and this idea of using your body to help you heal core beliefs that don't serve you anymore. They're looking back at history, when we're younger, we're all told certain things or we believe certain things that later in life don't serve us. EMDR really gives this amazing strategy of getting to those earlier beliefs quicker, faster, and more effective than any other theory that I've ever worked with. It really does kind of cut through any of the BS that people might say to themselves, or any kind of lies or whatever people do to kind of get through their life now. It gets through that with EMDR. You can't BS EMDR.
Hi, and welcome to the Mental Health Show with Robert Grigore. I am your host, Robert Grigore. If this is the first time that you've come across the show or the channel, this show is about debunking popular myths about mental health and other health-related fields, and also destigmatizing mental health to bring the conversation into a place where we can have clarity and save you, our audience members, some time, money, and unnecessary pain and suffering. So on this show, I'm very, very excited to have a dear guest of mine. She's one of my associates and colleagues, Dr. Cindi Saj. We're laughing a little bit because I was like, your last name, how do I actually say that? And we figured, hopefully it's pretty close. I have a long list here of what your accomplishments are, and I think that this is long, so get ready for this. So, Dr. Cindi, I'm going to call you that so I don't get your last name wrong. Okay, so first of all, registered social worker. You're an entrepreneur of 2 businesses, is it?
Yeah.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a third or fourth now. I'm not so sure. Okay, so 2 businesses. As I said, colleague of mine. We're lucky to have you on our team. She is the co-author of the best-selling book, Finding Your Purpose, a guidebook to more meaningful life. And I think the next one, the second book, is going to be also a bestseller. So you're the co-author of the next book, Finding Your Wellness, a guidebook to self-care. Those are amazing. I'll put the link, obviously, for those. Okay, doctorate from University of Manitoba. You're a professor at 2 different universities. EMDR certified EMDR therapist, which means the EMDR International Association. Essentially, to get there, you have to jump through a lot of hoops to you increase your ranking in EMDR. You have all kinds of additional certifications, so EMDR 2.0, CBT, DBT, internal family systems, solution-focused brief therapy, indigenous focusing oriented therapy, yoga for trauma recovery, and now clinical hypnosis. Anything else, we'll just tack it on to the second interview, probably. She works with children, youth, and adults. And honestly, she's one of the most amazingly skilled therapists. She's kind-hearted and incredible deep knowledge, compassionate approach. She works with people to overcome complex challenges. Whew. And here she is. Cindi, thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Oh, Robert, thank you so much for the very kind introduction. Definitely, you can probably see that I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I absolutely love learning. So that's where a lot of that comes from. But thank you very much for having me as a guest. It's definitely an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's an honor to have you. I'm very, very excited for this interview. So I think one of the things you might have mentioned it right there, being the nerd thing. But I didn't even mention that there's other things that you do as well. As we're communicating, every so often. I find out that you're traveling as well, and you're doing retreats. I think you did one in Spain, if I recall. You're doing academic journal writing and things. Like, you're doing so many things. How do you find the time in your life to fit all of that in the same amount of time that everybody else has for the week? How do you do that?
So I wish that I had like a easy cut corners answer for you. Well, first off by saying I value sleep tremendously. So although it sounds like I do a lot, I definitely prioritize sleep, and that's kind of how I recharge and reset. Also, a lot of what I do, you might have noticed in the introduction, is I co-author and I co-own. I don't need to do it all by myself, and that's a huge strategy and way that I've learned to live is that I don't need to do it all by myself. And it's not so much, the how, it's the who that you surround yourself with. So I definitely keep, my mentors close. I definitely have really supportive people in my life, and that really helps me achieve my goals as well.
That is that's incredibly profound. Actually, you didn't make a lot of it, but I think like the delegating is such a powerful skill to have, and asking for help and leaning on other people, team members is incredibly beneficial. So whether a person that's tuning in right now, whether you're a CEO or solopreneur or what you might be doing in life, there's people around you, I think, that you can lean into and get some help. So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Another jump in. The other thing is I absolutely love what I do. So, if my career was accounting, I would definitely not be as successful. If my career was a hockey player, I would not be as successful. I absolutely love what I do, and that's what I think gives me the energy and gives me the ambition and the motivation to actually show up for my clients, for myself, and do the things that I love. That also is my job.
That's a big deal. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like work necessarily. That's a cliche, but waking up, I wake up at 4 o'clock and I'm like, okay, what do I get to do today? I'm very excited to get to work. But yeah, I'm definitely not doing as much as you are. So I'll take some pointers from you on that. Okay, so I'm curious about, I know a little bit about, your professional background and things that you do, and I'm really curious about how you got into mental health. Like, what is the origin story for Dr. Cindi?
Yeah, then that's something that, it's often a lot of humility where, I came up from adversity as well. I worked through addictions. I've had, different domestic violence, different types of adversity in life. And I think that I had a really strong, supportive female mother who really kind of held me throughout it all. And that's kind of where, you see someone who really embodies what you want to be like when you grow up and throughout whatever life threw at us, she was that strong, kind, flexible, compassionate human being that I really got to learn from, and I put her through the ringer as well, and she always showed up for me, and this is all I could do to kind of give back to those who may not have had a mother like I had, or who may not have had the experiences or the opportunities that I had. So it comes from humility. It comes from me messing up so many times in my background, in my past, that I want to kind of share and be someone for someone else, because we all have such amazing tools and gifts and strengths inside of us, but we're not always told that. And so to have someone actually stop and say, hey, you know what, you are awesome. And in whatever way you're awesome, that's great. And that isn't always relayed in our society. And that's where I want to be that voice.
I think that my interactions with you, that comes clear very, very clearly. You're very encouraging and very empowering, person. I actually feel uplifted every time I hang out with you. So, is mom still with us?
Yeah, she is, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. Like gratitude every single day. We talk every night, and it's just like once again reminds me of like the good in the world all the time.
Well, thank her for us. Thank you for her for me for you. You're an amazing individual. Um, and I think what
Hear
you
that, mom? Do you
mentioned,
hear that, mom? Just kidding.
yeah. Finally, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I think what I was wanted to tack on to what you're saying there is that a lot of people might have the misconception that therapists have had everything figured out easily, and we just walk around these like really calm, grounded individuals that are just good. But most of us have had, pretty interesting backstory. Like, you mentioned a couple of things that are also in my backstory: addiction and domestic violence. I had two domestic violence relationships in the past, and all kinds of different addictions. Ranging. I didn't inject myself with anything. So that's as far as but I, put a lot of things up my nose. Let's just say, and yeah, it's a lot of different things. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think it's important for people that when they're thinking about counseling or mental health work, individuals have had some sort of a backstory. It doesn't have to be addiction, but having some kind of backstory, of actually understanding what it's like to live through some of the conflict and chaos and turmoil. I think it really makes us have like a better, capacity to really understand what people are going through. Would you
Oh,
agree with that?
100%. I feel like mistakes are life's greatest gifts. Often when we make the wrong turn, that's kind of where we decide who we actually are. And then when we kind of do things that aren't really like us, we decide who we want to be.
Wow, that's profound. I think that's going to be a soundbite after this. That's terrific. I love that. Okay. Okay, so your books. I wanted to dive into that a little bit. There's a thing that comes up in my work with the people that I'm working with, and sometimes these might be CEOs or very accomplished people, and they might go, Robert, I don't know what my purpose is here. Like, well, you created like 4 companies. Are you sure? Like, you know what your purpose is? That's just sort of my inside voice, but really, people can have a crisis of finding that purpose. And since you wrote the book on it, I thought maybe or co-wrote the book on that. Could you maybe give us a pointer or two, or like how do you sort of guide people to finding that purpose?
Yeah, and even having someone come to you and say, "Hey, I don't know my purpose," and that's a great open-ended question to be like, a purpose isn't a fixed destination. A purpose isn't this aha moment where life is just peachy after, right? This idea that we might have, moments in our life that make us in this purposeful. So it isn't necessarily the end goal. It really is a journey of finding multiple purposes, and the idea too is that we don't have to have one clear purpose in order to kind of feel like we're having a meaningful life. Different scenarios, different situations, whether the purpose at one point is to be a father, whether the purpose at one point is to be a best friend or a colleague or to open a business or, there's so many things that we can be that it's not just one. And then with that being said, is it doesn't also have to be grand or altruistic. This idea that it has to be this changing the world moment in your life, it doesn't. It can be something as small as actually, giving someone a smile that then they go smile at someone else and they go smile at someone else. And that's the purpose of that day or that life. Yeah, it's really interesting when we kind of start to boil down this pressure to find a purpose and to find this external or validation around like why we're alive and why we're here. Every day we can find small, meaningful things to make that purpose.
Oh, that is so profound. I love that. Wow. I'm going to digest for a second. Um, yeah, I think that we've got, it's very, just open social media and you've got people, showcasing how, amazing their lives are and they're helping this many people and stuff. And I think that can be okay for some people, and that is the path for some people, that they're out there to inspire and create, major changes in the world, and we need that. It's terrific. But let's not sleep on the what we might consider smaller purposes. And I think what you mentioned, like simply giving somebody a smile, can literally save a life, right? Like that person that didn't think that anybody noticed them, or they were like they were invisible in the world, and maybe you just so happened to catch their eye and you gave them a smile and they felt like they were seen, and then they don't jump off a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you literally could have saved a life with that smile. Like don't over or underestimate that. I think that is just terrific. And think of the people that make a living with making people smile. Like there's different ranges of that. I think that's terrific. And I like the idea that you said of purpose changing being like a fluid thing. There isn't like I was born, here's this little baby, you have to do this big thing, little guy or little girl, right? Or and then it's like there's so much pressure to place on somebody. So I think that's really powerful to know that it can change and be fluid as people grow.
Yeah. And going with the idea of opening social media, right? We often get this vision that our purpose is to have a big house and, nice cars and to travel and to be very kind of, big with everything. And at the end of the day, kindness is an amazing purpose. Or this idea of like sharing love is an amazing, purpose in life. Making the world better, not consuming is a really great purpose. The neat part about the book too is that it's not going to tell you because I know your purpose. That's not at all what it's about either. It's about the self-exploration. And, only we know what fills our cup. Only we know what we love. And as I was saying earlier, if I had spent a lifetime, playing hockey or doing accounting, I would not be happy. Some people, that's their goal in life, and that's completely okay. And that's where it is an individual journey where no one else knows that destination. No one else knows like the checkpoints but you.
That's really powerful. And as you're saying, I'm thinking about the professional hockey players that I've had the honor of working with. Literally, ex NHL players. And they had a very clear pathway for their purpose, and they accomplished many things, some of them at the highest level that you can get to, and for them that was their purpose. And then something happens, they have an injury, it ends their career, or they just retire because they're at that age. And then now you have these people whose entire lives were focused upon being this hockey player, and that was their life, and now they're no longer a hockey player. What do they do?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question to ask, what do they want to do? And this idea, there's so many amazing teachable moments that they can share then, right? That it takes a lot to get there, and they're there, and it takes a lot to bounce back from adversity, and they can be there. So there really is, like in any bad scenario, there's always a silver lining, and that sounds very cliche, but there really is. I had the fortunate opportunity of trail running and breaking my leg, and I thought it was this big deal, and I was very devastated, and it really made a big pivot in my life, and had it not happened, I would not be where I am today. So there's always things that happen that maybe we think we're on our purpose, and maybe we built up our entire life to do that thing that we're doing, and something in life happens that's out of our control, and that's maybe where we are humble and understand that our purpose is something bigger than what we think it is.
Oh, that's huge. Yes, that reminds me. Is it the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, or who says that life happens when you're busy making other plans? Do you know?
I don't even know, but that's a great quote.
I think yeah, exactly. Like there's a big thing, and I mean that we get into, like, maybe there's a higher purpose, or there's sort of like a guidance system. And if you believe in that sort of thing, that can work in your favor. And otherwise, there's just you can make life happen whenever whatever seems to be meaningful for you. There's never, like, you're never done perhaps making meaning and purpose for your life.
You're bringing up a lot of great points. So going back to the idea of if you were to have something unfortunate happen, and you have to pivot from your career, you can go around blasting other people and being miserable, and just being someone who's not really fun to be around, or you can go around still smiling and spreading kindness and joy and love, and that really is who you choose to be, and that could be your purpose, right? This idea of, if you can choose to smile when things aren't always going your way, and that smile impacts someone else's life, isn't that amazing, right? If you can uplift someone else, why not, right? So it really does kind of give us these choice points in life too.
I love that. You open up this idea of having multiple different purposes. Like maybe one path is to do one thing, and then but as you're going, your purpose is to be smiling or happy and uplifting other people every step of the way that you go, because that's just being a nice, kind individual. And it's just, why wouldn't you want to be happier in the world while you're moving in this direction of your this sort of bigger purpose? I think it kind of, we're entering into this idea that there's there's some myths here that people have had of purpose. Like you said, like, it's not necessarily to have the big house and the cars and the travel lifestyle and the big giant businesses that are changing the world, and that may be some people's purpose. But there seems like there's, and not just necessarily one, there could be multiple purposes and pathways to that, those different purposes. So fascinating.
Yeah. And I bring it back to smiling, and people are probably like, hey, really, this girl keeps talking about smiling, and what is this? Smiling, really does make you feel good. So the research and the scientific, model around like smiling, it actually activates muscles that then signals your brain that you're actually feeling happy. So, not to say fake it till you make it, but this idea that you actually can smile and feel good. So whether you're smiling and you don't really mean it in the very beginning, or whether you smile and it actually improves your mental health, why not give it a try?
Yeah, that's huge. So if you're tuning in on Apple, you would be seeing this with the video. But so I encourage you to come and watch this on either YouTube or Spotify. You can see Dr. Cindi here, and you're smiling every time I'm around you. I'm smiling, and I just feel happier and better. So like there's an infectious, like a positive way thing with smiling. And I think that there's a part, I talk to some of my clients when I'm working with them, that there's a part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which might know that you're just doing an exercise, and I'm not really happy, but I'm just smiling just because I want to try it, but the other parts of your brain actually don't know that that's not the case. So this is why visualizations are so powerful. And I work with athletes or other people that are high performers, for example, but really anybody can do this. When you start to visualize, your body doesn't know the difference between what's actually what it's seeing for real, or what you're seeing in your mind. So if you're smiling and you're telling yourself you're happy, and your brain and your body are going through the steps of the smile, it actually creates changes in your face. Over time, that actually will make, let's say, 80% of you actually feel happy. You keep doing that, you keep doing that, keep doing that. That might, increase to, more parts of you being happy. So I love that. That's really cool. I wanna just move slightly here to your second book, because I know that one's, about wellness, and guidebook to self care is the title. So finding your wellness, and a guidebook to self care. And I was wondering if there's any myths that you can, kind of crush for us here around self care, or any guidance that you might have around self care, wellness.
Yeah, and so I think maybe the first I'll start with the guidance is that self-care is a holistic approach. So some people are very much thinking that self-care is, the gym, or, this idea of I'm a runner, I do great self-care, or, I go to the spa, I have great self-care. It's more than just that. So it really is this idea of looking at the mental, social, spiritual, environmental, physical, all those things matter. And so if you're, going to the gym a lot, but you're not sleeping, or if you're going to, sleeping a lot, but then not actually practicing anything that's movement related, like you're getting one of the many needs. So it's important to know that it's a holistic approach. And then with that being said, it's also personal and individual. Some people love running. Some people do not like running. Walking is fantastic. Some people do not like going to the spa. Having a shower is fantastic, right? So there's different things that people can do, and it doesn't have to be a one size fits all. And I think that's really important to note too. Also, wellness is not what you're seeing on social media. It's not the nice cars. It's not the big houses. It's not the, tanning and fake and whatever, right? Like it really is authentic to you. And that's where it's this journey of finding what fills your cup. Some people absolutely love being in rooms with people and the energy and that kind of social wellness, versus some people love to be quiet and, with a campfire, or just like by themselves with their animals. Like there's so many different versions, and that's okay. That you don't need to kind of fit into what other people are doing. You're going to find your own, and you'll know your own because you'll feel good in that situation. If you're going somewhere because you think it needs to be done to get you to that wellness, it's not working. It's not going to work. You need to find what's authentically you. And that's kind of the journey with whether it's your purpose or your wellness. It is authentically you. And that's that slowing it down and listening to what you and your needs are. As for myths, there's so many out there. One of the big ones that I actually had for a long time before I started to kind of lean into this is that it's selfish. People think self care is a selfish thing. People think that, taking the time for themselves, if they're a mom, or if they're a business owner, or if they're, some type of thing that people rely on to slow down, to take off, your phone, to go into the bush, like to do things that are just for you, people think is selfish. And 100% it is not. It's actually selfish not to do that, because you are not showing up as your best self when you're not giving your time to kind of heal. I can kind of keep going on, so I'm just gonna let you jump in, Robert.
That's terrific. I was like, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, yup, okay, guilty of that. Literally last night. So last night, so my kids were being really loud. They wouldn't stop. I was like, okay, please stop. I cannot. Like they're 5 and 2 at the time of this recording, and they just wouldn't stop. And I was like, okay, I cannot. Like they don't understand. Like I'm reaching the limit of the window of my tolerance here. I'm in hyper arousal. I'm about to head into, like, they don't get that stuff, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go and bring my. I wasn't. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite as eloquent as Daddy needs to go to calm his nervous system down because he's stressed. I was just like, I gotta go, and I just walked away. And, I walked away, and I came down here to my office. It was my safe space, my calm place. It's my zone, and I was just watching videos, and I was like calming down, and did some breathing techniques, and when I felt better, I went back. But I was feeling guilty. I was like, I just walked away on them. Like, God, they're gonna have abandonment issues or something like that. Like, gotta start saving for their therapy fund already. But yeah, so I appreciate you saying that, because I know that, for me and probably a lot of people listening, that is a fear. Like, I've got this and this and this and this on the go. But if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have any energy for anything else, and so you're actually giving less of that authentic, version of you. And I think that's another thing I want to jump into. We'll come right back to the more other self-care myth, because I think there's like, what is authenticity? What does that mean?
Yeah, are you asking actually me?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
that's a
asking
really
you.
great Socratic question where, what is authenticity? What does that mean to anyone? And what does that mean as a human being? So one thing I'll often talk to clients about is that when you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to you. So authenticity would be saying yes to you. And this idea too of what your scenario was, Robert, around leaving your kids when you were having a moment of like, I'm above my window tolerance, I'm going to blow up. Had you not left, you might have blown up, and you would be, paying for counseling for other reasons with your kids, right? So this idea of finding yourself and finding the best version of you is exactly how we want to show up. So if it is involving just taking a couple of breaths to kind of reset your central nervous system to then go back and be the best version of you, that's amazing. That's authentic. That's you. Versus the idea of you being a hot-headed, which I've never seen you upset. I've never seen you angry and yelling, right? That isn't an authentic version of you. So we all have different things in us, but this idea of who you want to be and who you are and the best version of you is that authenticity.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that. I love that. Yeah, I would say that I have blown up a few times, and I'm trying not to. So my authentic me is changing.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, coming out more and more and more. But you're totally right. Like, that's not the person I want. I do not want to be the person that yells at their kids, and any more than that's necessary, unless they're like running into traffic or something. Okay, let's get back into the self care, because I kind of cut you off. I feel like there might be another myth or two in there.
Yeah.
What else would you consider like another myth here of self care?
Yeah, and on this topic, it's a nice kind of segue is that self-care is not only for when you're stressed. So it's not only for the situation of you about to, lose your cool or you about to kind of burn out. Self-care is preventative. Self-care can actually help you have longer sustainability in your career, in your life. Self-care can be used to kind of build up that reservoir or reserve, there we go,
Mhm.
of just patience and tolerance, right? So using it day to day is actually going to help you versus using it when you need it the most. They're both very, useful things to do, but if you can kind of, start your day with maybe going for a walk or breathing or just some type of quiet, that's going to actually help you kind of move through the rest of your day with a little bit more tolerance and patience versus getting up and running and being late for work and kind of, having to hustle and driving in traffic. Like, you can kind of see what I'm going with this. So this idea that if you can use it preventatively or if you can use it to like slow you down, it's a great way. So not just using it when you're stressed. Also, self-care does not need to be expensive. It does not need to be, the newest gadgets out there or the newest spas or the newest like treatments that you're hearing about. Self-care can literally be something as like easy as going for a walk. Or what I always tell clients is breathing. Breathing is such an undervalued self-care strategy. We consistently breathe into our lungs. We forget that, hey, I could actually take a bigger breath. And if I take a bigger breath, that actually just benefits my body more with this beautiful oxygen running through my body. Like, we forget that. So stuff like that is that self-care.
I heard gratitude in there too. Like, as you're breathing, I feel like that's sort of like in your makeup. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's just sort of a makeup here of that appreciation of, wow, like it's be able to have air in my lungs, and it's clean air, and I get to breathe. That is a powerful thing, because some people struggle, and that's not, people don't take it for granted. Um, I love that, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, difficult to get. Like, you don't have to go, to Spain for yourself, Carol. You could, right? Or, Mexico, like I'm dreaming of right now. I really want to go. But it doesn't have to be that. So self-care can be at any time. When I work also with my clients, I sometimes discuss like your energy for the day. Let's say you've got 100 kilojoules of energy per day, and as you do things in the day, it brings it down, right? So even though exercise is considered positive, if you will, most people consider that to be a positive thing, it is a stress on the body. So your body is getting stressed a little bit, positive stress potentially. So if you're in the calm, green zone, nice and grounded, that social engagement, ventral vagal, relaxed state, then like a nice stressor for your body. But if you're in like a really high, already stressed state, like you're waking up, we co-sleep with our kids, so if you like like your kid, drop kicks you in the sleep a couple times, and you're waking up and you can't sleep, and then you're like this, and then like, okay, I got to work out because it's supposed to, and then you're trying to do. Now you're extra stressed, and like you're waking up with maybe 50% in your tank, and then you have to maybe drive into traffic, and then you're down to like 30%, and then you have to work, and then you have work at like 25% or something. That's hard, and you come back the rest of your day. So what Dr. Cindy's saying, if you can proactively do some of this calming strategies or self care, you wake up and you meditate or something really calmly or peacefully, or read a book or something, or just take a moment and step outside. I think nature's underrated too, probably, right? You just step outside if it's good weather, of course, and just breathe. And then maybe had you woken up and you got drop kicked, because you can't really control that sometimes, and then you're like 80%, and you go outside, take some deep breaths, maybe back up to 90, and then you have that little extra cushion. I love that. It's beautiful. Anything else that comes up for you when you think about wellness or self-care? Any other tips that you would share?
Yeah, and I think, kind of going back to even like thinking about purpose and thinking it has to be this big, huge thing. Self-care also does not need to be this big, huge thing, right? This idea that we can go for, as you're kind of mentioning, like a short moment of like a 5-minute walk, a 2-minute walk, going in the bathroom and having 2 minutes of breath is so valuable. It doesn't have to be this big trip to, Spain, or this big, long, commitment to anything. It could literally be a tiny little bit of in your day. Just the intentional, movement to find self-care, and not even necessarily an actual movement, but just a mindfulness around self-care. You can take time to just eat and enjoy your food, and that could be self-care. You could take time to just take a breath, and that could be your self-care. So it doesn't need to be a lot of time. And then with that being said, there's no one size fits all. And that's kind of where it's just like, yeah, we could try this and this and this and this and try different things. There's no universal, idea of what it should be. And then just finding a practice that resonates with you individually. So maybe, the breathing thing is not your thing. That's okay. Maybe the walking thing is, or maybe the, coloring thing is. Maybe coloring for you is a great way to kind of recharge your batteries. Or, there's so many different things to try where, be creative, go outside the box, try things that are going to kind of work for you, and go with that.
I love that. And I want to put you on the spot a little bit. Do you think that this could be self-care?
100% no. I
No.
wish cell phones were never existed. They're so wonderful for convenience, but they just, you see people, you look in a room sometimes and everyone's on their phone and they're missing communication. They're missing, looking up. They're missing like seeing the sunshine and the trees on walks. People are walking on their phones and it's just taking over. So if we can even disconnect for 5 minutes, that's self-care, right? This idea that is such a great, great strategy is to put your phone down.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I would add, just for some people out there, that if you're in that like red zone, yellow zone, you're gonna like literally explode unless you look at your phone for 30 seconds or two. Like, do that, okay, and then you're down a little bit, and then put the phone down, and then go breathe, and then go walk out. Ideally, if you can do that without the phone, that's even better, right? But I'm thinking like you start with wherever you're at, and I'm agreeing with you on this. I mean, I like the idea of the convenience, the technology. Like, you have so many things at your fingertips, but it's a double-edged sword, because what happens to this meaningful interaction, is so important. It's in that green zone. Like, we need to connect with people. Yes, connecting can happen, on your Facebook groups and stuff, and that is possible. There is a little bit of that, like, in social engagement there, but I don't think it beats in person. That's what we saw with COVID. Like, so many people were having such distress. One of the main factors, of course, there was the actual health stuff was important, but the mental health aspect of not being around people, and being alone and not being disconnected, it was just really difficult. So at least maybe try to schedule like a Zoom call with a friend every week or something like that, just to get a little
Yeah.
boomph of your self care. I really like that. Let's move into mental health in general. So we're talking about self care, and we're talking about like purpose, and then, but there's also this overarching, so like mental health and therapy in general. What have you seen in your career so far where which sort of lead into this idea that there are some misconceptions about therapy or misconceptions about mental health. What have you come across?
Yeah, something that I often, hear people saying is that, mental health or therapy or counseling is a sign of weakness. I come here because I've tried everything else, and this is just my last resort, and this is just so low that I'm here. And it's like actually, like no, everyone at some point in their life will need a counselor. Very normal. Whether it is, in the hospital when you're having a baby for the first time and you just don't know what to do, that's a great person to have as a counselor. Whether you're going through life and you don't know how to work with your toddler, that's a great person to have a counselor. Whether a trauma happens, great. Like there's just so many big moments in life where, hey, it would be very useful to talk to a counselor. It doesn't mean weakness, it doesn't mean failure, it doesn't mean any of that. It actually is a strength. Therapy can be skill building. Therapy can help you develop coping strategies, help you be a better human, help you slow it down, help you to have someone to vent to that's not someone close to you, or you can kind of share your thoughts that you wouldn't share with someone else. It helps you feel normal. Like there's so many good things that come from counseling that people forget or people kind of stigmatize, which is something that I wish would change.
Yeah, and you can thank Hollywood for that. I think a big part of it. Well, they're changing, thankfully. There's other shows out there now that are promoting mental health and therapy, and some that still need to go a little ways. I was watching Shrinking, which is a funny show, but there's like so many ethical boundaries that they're crossing there. As you're saying that, I was thinking about the other cultural, religious type of services that have been around for thousands of years, where I believe that it was very commonplace to talk to a pastor or a rabbi or a priest or and again we're not promoting any of those things necessarily here, but like that's the thing that was very common, and particularly because they're not in your close social sphere. Now counseling mental health different because there's sort of boundaries about what they're not gonna people aren't gonna come in and get the therapist belief system. Hopefully they're not supposed to anyway, get the therapist belief systems imposed entirely. I think to some degree we're humans, so that's just part of how it is, but I think like there's a really important role here that as you said, the therapists and mental health counselors can really promote and help and support. Like this is that green zone. This is that social connection. You're reaching out to somebody else. Like we're a social species. We're not supposed to do this stuff on our own. And I say to people, you can't will yourself through all these life events. Sometimes like it just doesn't really work. So I love that. I agree with you totally. Anything else that you can think of in terms of mental health or therapy that's a misconception? People have gotten it wrong and to be a different way.
Yeah, there's tons. Just kind of sticking to ones that I've dealt with in the last week or so is that even this idea of like suicide, people are so worried about talking about suicide, or this idea that I'm so wrong to think about suicide at some point in my life, or all those kind of stigmas around like, hey, we're all human. That's twisted thoughts, or this idea of like suicide ideation is something that everyone will have at some point in their life. And so if you're having it, don't be scared, reach out. There's people that will not judge, and there shouldn't be any judgment because we've all had it. I've had thoughts of suicide in my history. Doesn't mean that I've done it, doesn't mean that I'm closer to doing it, but that's just where it's really good to talk about and not feel so alone. That's something that I really want people also to know, and that if you're not okay, it's okay not to be okay. There's been a lot of stuff happening in the world. It's okay not to feel like you got it right now. It's okay to kind of ask for help. It's okay to say I can't do this right now.
That's huge. So suicidal ideation, I often normalize that with people too. I think that's a really big deal. Especially, there's been so much rhetoric about there a sense that we, if you think about suicide, that there's something's wrong with you, you should be guilty. Like it's a super selfish thing to do to think about suicide, and and I always tell my clients that there's a sort of like a line that we sort of cross as an EMDR therapist. I'm thinking about the green zone, yellow zone. So in hypoarousal, the red zone up here, it's very common when you feel overwhelmed and powerless and you don't know what to do with a situation. You feel like it's hopeless. Suicidal ideation is a way that one's mind can gather some sense of control. And I've been there a couple times, and looked down from my 12th floor office building before. I was like, oh yeah, that would do it. And in that moment, although I was at my lowest point at that time, that helped me feel like I do have some sense of control here. I could, if I needed to, I could do that, but I wouldn't, obviously. And the line is, when there's a plan in place and a timing, and people go through some of these next steps for suicide, then of course we're concerned as therapists. But I always try to normalize that with my clients and people. Like, this is a normal part of being human. We get to contemplate our non-existence, and we have the power to make that happen. So I think it's a normal part of mental health, and something that, if you're there, don't be shy, reach out, ask for help, talk to a therapist. I appreciate that you said that.
And also this understanding that when you talk about it, you understand that, hey, maybe it's not all of me that wants to die. Maybe it's a part of me. And maybe that part is a pain, or maybe that part is a disappointment. And then it makes it a little bit less scary, where it's like, hey, wait a minute, I have different parts, and a part of me wants to live, and a part of me wants to not. Like, it opens up the dialogue, which also gives you more self-awareness of yourself, which is a really great place to be.
I love that. And I agree. I think that there's parts, and we could dive into like an internal family systems, or we can go into that direction, which we probably won't for this purpose of this particular show. But knowing that we're complicated individuals. We all have different parts. Like right now, I'm a show host, and later I'll be a therapist, and I'll be a dad, and then like I'll dump. There's different parts of me, and I agree. And usually when you ask, is it all of you that wants to die, or just a part of you? Or, is it like you don't want to be in this, would you like relief from this pain? Do you want the pain to stop or the suffering to stop? And usually people go, yeah, that's what I would prefer. It makes me think about my EMDR consultant, because we all have consultants that we look for, right? That's part of being professional. And I always ask my consultant, like a client that might be suicidal, she always says, like, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
Like, yep, that is exactly correct. So, you can't come back from that. I love that we're going there, and we're sort of leading into family systems. We're leading into EMDR a little bit. We're leading into all these different things. And on your bio, there was, I don't know, 50 of them that you do. So, what in your viewpoint? There's, how did you get interested in all these different types of therapies?
Yeah, and that's that, bring you back to that nerd in me. I love learning, and I'm so curious. And I think, in all honesty, I was curious about EMDR because I was like, oh, this is nonsense. I'm going to prove this wrong. I want to learn about this because I want to know exactly what I can inform my clients on about what's actually happening, because there's no way this is actually as effective as I'm hearing. So I actually took the training to kind of debunk it, or to kind of like learn about more of it so I can kind of refute it or deny it. Right? Because I've been a practitioner of cognitive behavioral therapy. I've been solution focused. I've been, different theories for my entire career. So I was like, I can't be wrong. Like this can't be right. And so I took it basically with that understanding of me being egotistical, thinking that I had the best theories. And taking it and being very humbled.
That is so similar to my story. I'll link a video to this somehow. That's what I thought. I went in there and I thought, this is ridiculous. There's no way that this is gonna help my client get better. I just thought, that's ridiculous. I'm waving my hand in case you're listening only. I was like, this is ridiculous. No, not a chance. And I thought I was gonna leave. And like at the lunch hour, I was gonna duck out, and I was like, I'm paying too much money for this. I might as well just stick around and get the credits at least, because I need that part. And then my mind got changed totally. So then what in your opinion, what's the value of EMDR, and how do you see it fitting together with these other modalities?
Yeah, and looking at like this term theoretic orientation, it's kind of how we believe in people changing, and what we think, goes into theory of counseling. And, going back to kind of my humble beliefs are around positive psychology, around like everyone has the ability within themselves to heal, and they have the strength and the tools that they need to do it. Kind of looking at the philosophy too of, if you get cut, your body heals itself. If you get, broken bone, your body heals itself. EMDR really is tapping into your body's ability to heal itself. It's using your neural pathways, it's using your brain, it's using your, eyeballs and bilateral stimulation in your brain to kind of heal yourself. So it kind of does really marry well with, core beliefs and this idea of using your body to help you heal core beliefs that don't serve you anymore. They're looking back at history, when we're younger, we're all told certain things or we believe certain things that later in life don't serve us. EMDR really gives this amazing strategy of getting to those earlier beliefs quicker, faster, and more effective than any other theory that I've ever worked with. It really does kind of cut through any of the BS that people might say to themselves or, any kind of lies or whatever people do to kind of get through their life now. It gets through that with EMDR. You can't BS EMDR. So this is a really neat approach to working with those core beliefs, being humble, understanding that, hey, you know what, when you're 5 years old and you're told that you're not good enough, that's stuck. And that's okay. And that doesn't matter if you're a CEO now and you're running 5 businesses. When you were 5, that 5-year-old's still inside of you. And let's work with that to get that where you're not thinking that you're not good enough anymore. So it's really neat to kind of get to that. And it does integrate different, approaches and different beliefs. But at the end of the day, it really is the quickest way to have your body heal itself, to have your mind heal itself, and to have people moving forward in their life and to their best version of self.
Oh, I love that. I went through a professional arc here where I thought that EMDR was the only thing that people should do, and like you shouldn't do any other therapies. And so I'm calling myself out here, my past me. And I was like, why would you do CBT? I've had clients that come to me like, I have done talk therapy for like 30 years and I cannot get there. And they're like, I didn't know EMDR existed. If I'd known, I would have saved myself 30 years. And now version of me, I go back and you were not wasting your time because maybe you needed those 30 years to get ready for the EMDR. I think that it actually really works well together. There's so much adaptive information that gets, that people learn and skills and everything and all these different other therapies that I really think it all works well together. But I do agree with Cindi that with you, there's a pathway in there that can just, I don't know if it's matched by any other type of treatment, but I do think it all works well together, and I think that is a fully integrated approach. It's a terrific thing to have in your arsenal as a therapist.
Yeah, I'm also learning that slow is fast. So also with that being said, is not everyone's ready to dive into EMDR. Not everyone's ready to kind of get those instant results. So that's something that, as therapists, and I'm sure you've seen as well, is that, yeah, we need to slow it down sometimes. And some people want CBT, and that's completely okay. And that's where, often as counselors, we start where the client's at, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I like that. So the client, if they have a preference, then we're going to go into that. I really appreciate that because I think that that's a question mark. You have all these different trainings. What do you give to people, and how do you make them what do you offer? And so I guess it's a conversation with the client and what it is that they're particularly looking for. And I guess if a client's like, you can do anything except for hypnosis. You're probably not going to do hypnosis with them, right? You might be curious, why do you not want me to do hypnosis?
Yeah.
Right, curiosity there. Well, what about hypnosis? That's at the time of this recording, that's your latest training, I believe. So, unless you've done 5 other things, but so talk to me a little bit about. I bet you there's a lot of myths about I know one of course is the walking like a duck, quacking like a duck kind of thing. Is that going to happen to people? You talked to me about some myths here with hypnosis.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit why I even took the hypnosis training. So clinical hypnosis is, a therapeutic approach that does work with clients, and there is a lot of research to suggest that it's very effective. And I was curious around what the difference is between EMDR and clinical hypnosis, and I wanted to get more information around debunking clinical hypnosis and to try to rule it out and kind of be like, oh, this is hogwash. And I took it.
Theme here,
yeah, right. So I took it. definitely so curious about it, and there's so many myths around it. So, clinical hypnosis and this idea of hypnosis, or this idea that thinking that it's mind control, or thinking that you're going to have control over someone and that, you can say certain words and just snap your fingers and they're under your power. Completely not what it is. People often think that, only weak-minded people can be, hypnotized. Not true either. Some people think that you're going to fall asleep during hypnosis or being hypnotized. Some people think that you're going to get stuck in it. Like, these are all myths that come up, and they're definitely things that are not true. Not true. They're not true. To clarify, it doesn't really involve controlling someone's mind by any means. It's a collaborative process. People will be hypnotized if they're open to it, if they're willing to kind of partake and participate. People typically don't fall asleep. They're just in a really deeply relaxed, focused state of awareness. It is impossible to get stuck in hypnosis. People can come out at any time. People do have conscious awareness when they're in hypnosis. Yeah, so there's a ton of myths around that, and maybe I'll stop there to kind of see if you have any more curious questions.
No, I
But
just appreciate that because there's all those movies out there where hypnosis is part of it. Like I think it's Office Space. I think is one of my favorites, and the guy gets hypnotized, and then he's just this doesn't give a shit anymore about anything. He's like whatever. Yeah, so it's not that like you can't get stuck in it. Okay, yep.
No. And going back to the idea, like it's actually been like evidence-based proven. Like this is a way that you can do stuff like pain management. You could reduce anxiety. You could actually help, quit smoking. Like all these neat things come when we talk about, the mind. And this is kind of going back to this idea that your body can heal. Hypnosis is a way of tapping into your conscious state of awareness. And this is the idea of looking to see ways that you could use your mind to help you. So it really does look to see this word trance. We often hear the word trance. And when you're, doing a meditation or a visualization, you can be in a state of trance because you're so deeply focused on that state of awareness. It's not necessarily meaning that you're going to get up and have no, control of your limbs and your body and your mind. Like that's not what it is. It really is this state of being that is comfortable, relaxing. It's there to kind of put you at ease. And then with that being said, is that when we're in a state of ease and we recognize that we have control over our breath, over our body, where we feel certain, acknowledgement or sensations, that is having control of brain and body. Hypnosis is just kind of this idea that we can get to different states within awareness and sub-awareness and subconscious. So there's a lot still there to unpack. I have debunked around what I thought it was, and it's not what I thought it was either. And there is a lot of value in it, and it really does look to kind of help.
Cool. I appreciate that. A question mark for me is, can you combine hypnosis with EMDR?
And that's a lot of great trainings come from that, which is I'm going to be exploring next. But with that being said, is even looking at what we talk about the safe place. There's a lot of hypnotic language. There's a lot of hypnosis within that. When you're kind of doing a conversation or any kind of a story, you actually put someone in a trance. So there is a lot of hypnosis already being done in our day-to-day conversations that we're not aware of. And so it just kind of highlights a little bit of what that is. And sometimes it is like hypnotic suggestions or languages or how you, speak, your tone, your pace. Those are all really important, but those are actually also very, relevant when you're making relationships or attunement or being active listening or being involved with the session and a client and just slowing it down. So there is some already hypnosis within EMDR. Same with, and you might have mentioned earlier that I teach yoga. When we're doing yoga and when we're kind of looking at savasana or when we're looking at meditation, that is a form of trance or a form of hypnosis. So it is interesting, and the more I know, the less I know. So I have to keep learning. But yeah, it definitely is an area for future research for sure.
Oh, that's really interesting. I was just thinking about, so you sort of have like this, like you learn something and then there's a constant, trajectory with you. It seems like that you keep learning and learning and learning. And I was just thinking about, if there's anything out there that you haven't learned, be careful because Cindi is coming for you to debunk your training, and then she's probably going to love it and then incorporate it. But be careful. So I just think that's terrific. I want to turn this over a little bit now to the individuals that are tuning into this. I feel like you've already given a lot of wealth of information here about resources and tools and things that people can do if they're struggling. But I'm curious, somebody's tuning in. If there's something that you haven't mentioned now that you would like to share as a resource for people, or something that they would like to try at home, what was the suggestion that you might have as just a way to sort of help with mental health, maybe before they get into counseling or between sessions or something like that? What would you recommend?
Well, there's so many great, simple strategies that I say are simple, but they're actually sometimes really challenging for people. So whether it is journaling, having some type of way to put your thoughts down, one thing I often tell clients is, is your journaling problem focused or solution focused? And that's something that people often get stuck on is when they journal, it's always with a problem. And it's a circular discussion around this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good, this doesn't feel good, I don't like this. And that's really going to keep you in that frame of mind. Verse, you can say a problem, but then try to structure it on a solution focused writing. Also, when you're writing stuff down, you can get it off your chest, get it out, but then don't fixate on it. Try to switch that to gratitude. What do you love about your life? What do you actually look forward to? And if you can't think of anything, are you grateful for having two eyeballs? Are you grateful for having, the fact that you can breathe air in, that you can walk around? Like that's a really great way to shift any outlook is gratitude. The other thing is movement. We kind of, think when we're sitting on the couch watching TV how life sucks and it's never going to get better. Getting up and going for a brisk walk is phenomenal. And if you can't go for a walk, and maybe if there is some type of ability that you can't walk, just getting up and moving your body a little bit. You can do chair yoga. You can get outside to enjoy the fresh air. There's so many little things that you can do that will be helpful that just change it up. Uh, sun is huge. During this time of year, seasonal affect disorder is huge. And if you're noticing that you're feeling low right now, try to get some vitamin D or get some sunshine. There's small little fixes that will be mind or world changing for you.
I used to like not be into journaling, so like I'm just writing all my problems. But I like that. If it's a solution focus, then your brain starts to free associate and make new neural connections between this and that, and it just sort of maybe flows. So maybe start problem at the beginning, and then like within a couple minutes, kind of move into your solution like that. And yeah, I like the again. I think we're going back to like you said, yeah, maybe it might be challenging for some people, but simple in terms of it doesn't cost a lot. You can do it, quickly. These are things that are just sort of normal parts of being human. Like get up and walk if you can, or if you are unable to get up, or but you could sit in the chair and do chair stretching, and do like I don't know what chair yoga is, but I want to try it. Do a lot of sitting all day long. That's really helpful. Thank you for that.
There's a lot of natural medicine. So movement is medicine. Nature is medicine, right? Sun is medicine. Water, there's so many things that we can do that is free. That is medicine.
Yeah, I love that. So now I'm going to turn the tables over to you. What do you do for your mental health?
Oh, that's a great question. So, self-study, I absolutely love learning, and as you may have heard over and over again, I love learning things, and so that's something that I actively fill my cup with. So when I grab a book, or lately I've been doing a lot of audiobooks because I drive in and out of town for when I go to work. Audiobooks are fantastic. They just give you normal knowledge, and I just find that I get really energized with learning stuff. I love nature, love it, love it, love it, love going for walks. I kind of am very goal driven in a sense where I like to have a goal. So I'll set my steps for the day. So I set steps, and that really, in counseling, we sit a lot. So it actually gets me up and walking. And if I'm not looking at my steps, I probably would not do some of the movement or some of the walking that I do. When I walk, I put my phone away and I just literally walk and enjoy the sunshine. Or even if it's a cold, brisk day, I enjoy just feeling things on my body outside. The water, I mentioned water being medicine for me. I absolutely love the ocean, and I plan a lot of retreats or trips around the ocean. Water to me is very therapeutic. I drink a lot of water. I shower, go for baths, but I just love water, the sound of water, and just like knowing what my medicines are. I try to bring them as much as I can around me. And then also I mentioned in the very beginning is rest. I got one of those Aura rings that kind of let you know what your sleep is, and I've really been practicing to be better with sleep. Sleep is the best way to recharge your brain. It kind of gives you that REM sleep or that rapid eye movement, which does also is therapeutic, right? So getting sleep is the best way for your body, for your brain, for everything. So if I could summarize all that I just said, self-study, nature, traveling, resting, and then I also really love yoga and spinning and cycling. So a lot of things, but they're all things that I do feel really do give me joy and also help me get energy.
How do you choose? How do you
How
choose
do
what you feel like doing? In like, because you do so many different things. If you had like two things you do, that's easy. But you got like 15 different things that you like to do. How do you choose what you're gonna do today?
Yeah, well, and I think there's like some non-negotiables. So the steps to
Mm.
me, like getting outside, getting movement, because I know that when I don't move, I just don't feel good. So, and then also they say when you don't move it, you lose it, right? So if you're not moving, you're eventually not going to be able to move anymore. So that to me is one of my non-negotiables is getting my movement in, getting outside, getting some fresh air. Rest is non-negotiable, same thing. It's something that I kind of put up there where I know if I don't have it, then I won't be okay. As far as like the other things, like the self study is kind of more of like a hobby or something that I enjoy to do. Traveling is something that I do enjoy to do. I drink a lot of water. When you're looking at what you need for wellness, water is really important. We underestimate the value of water. We're often, hungry, so we're eating, but are we actually hungry or are we thirsty? Ulcers or kidney stones are caused by not having enough water and stress. So these things there, where it actually helps your body process things when you're drinking water as well. So those are some of the non-negotiables that I have with respect to my self-care.
I love that. So I'm going to encourage you tuning in to think about what are your non-negotiables. What are the things that are absolutely necessary for you to feel better? And then probably some of your absolutely I'm not going to do's, with a definitely not. And then maybe in the middle is like what you're going to kind of be creative with and maybe try new things and see if you like it or not. And then, kind of feel just based upon how you're feeling that particular day. If it's really ugly and raining outside, maybe going for a walk isn't the thing you want to do unless you like walking in the rain. Then do that, of course. But maybe it's reading a book or whatever that might be. That's a I like all of that. I really think that's really helpful. Sleep is super important too. I read or I watched somewhere about sleeping like your brain gets washed of all the toxins and stuff that are in your brain. Like so, sleeping is incredibly beneficial. I don't know exactly how much you have to sleep. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the 90-minute REM cycle if you need that or if you can give a cat nap. I mean, I'm not a sleep expert, so maybe I don't know if you know that, but
I can go on for hours about sleep. There's a lot of great things about sleep, but the only thing I'll say is because I will go off for hours literally about sleep. But try to set a sleep routine. So get going to bed at a certain time, waking up at a certain time, and then just sticking to that. That's going to be really important. People often struggle with sleep, and there's a lot of things that get in the way when we talk about, well, what do you do before sleep? Well, I'm on TikTok. Okay, well, you need to not be on TikTok before you go to sleep, right? Setting up a nighttime ritual. I will stop there because, like I said, I will keep going. But sleep is, there's so many great resources out there to learn about sleep. There's so many great podcasts to listen to before you go to sleep that have really boring stories just to help you sleep. There's tons of apps to help you sleep. So please, yeah, if you're struggling with sleep, that can be your first priority to wellness.
I love that. That's super helpful. And maybe we'll do another pod or another show at some point about sleep. I think that's just terrific. I agree. I do the every morning. I wake up at the same time. I go to bed at the same time, and this is very consistent. So I don't think it's weird for your body to it's Saturday, so now I sleep in. My it's of course it's personal. If it's that works for you, then I guess you do it. But I agree that like you got like a particular sleep rhythm that you're just messing your body up if you're not sleeping in the same consistent way. So I love it. Thank you for all that information. What about any like last minute recommendations for purpose and self care? Anything else that you'd like to kind of wrap up here? Any last closing encouragements or anything you'd like to share with people?
I think if you start the journey, you can't get it wrong. And that's an important thing to know too, is that wherever you're at right now, is that you can't get it wrong by starting today. It's never too late. And this idea that, you deserve a good, happy life and it's attainable. What that looks like will be different for everyone. And making sure that it's actually what you want. And, if you don't want to have a big house with, a fast car, that's not a goal that you want to strive for then, right? This idea that don't compare yourself to someone else. Find your own things that make you feel good and go with that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. We're going to link your information, in the show notes here, and of course you can, work with Cindi right off the website, and just the links for your books and everything. We're going to have everything, to how to get in touch with Dr. Cindi. And I think there's so much information that you shared here on the show that I'm going to encourage you to go back and rewatch this with a pen and paper, write things down, research your own things a bit further if you like to. Reach out to Cindi. She's a very personable person. I'm sure you'll answer a question here or
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Please.
Reach out to me, I'll put you in contact. Like it'll just if you're struggling, you reach out. I think it's really, really, really powerful. So, Dr. Cindi, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate all of the wisdom you've shared, all of your experience, and I can just see you continuing to grow. And I'm going to have you back on the show, later if you'll have,
For sure.
yourself be on the show, and we'll kind of dive in maybe to some more, detailed things. So if there was something that you learned or you heard on the show that you want more information on, or us to dive deeper on, let me know in the comments. And we'll make a little document, and we'll kind of get more specific, more detail on certain things. But Dr. Cindi, thank you for being here. I really you did amazingly, and thank you for sharing everything with our audience.
It's been my absolute pleasure. And Robert, it's fantastic to meet with you, and I sincerely enjoy working with you.
It's likewise. I feel like I'm very happy, and I feel very grateful to have you on the team. So for you tuning in, thank you for tuning in to the show, and we'll see you on the next episode.